There's a lot in this world that's just plain stupid. Playing golf in the rain, poking a hornet's nest with a stick, getting Batman drunk, and then asking about his parents. Why not try something that might make you a little bit smarter? It's time for another damn trivia show. Stick around and listen. I think you'll be glad you did. If you're a fan of the Kill Bill movies, then you probably really dug that Hong Kong-inspired martial arts fight scene between the bride, clad in her Bruce Lee-style yellow leather, wielding her katana, and O-Ren Ishii's Crazy 88s. It was fast-paced, it was hard-hitting, and it was bloody. How different would it have been, though, if the bride fought Matt Brunage's Episode 88? Really damn different. The Crazy 88s were a bunch of masked Yakuza gang members. Episode 88 is a bunch of questions in 4 categories, 0 masks. Though, maybe we can fix that last part. For now, I dedicate episode 88 of ADTS to Tarantino's Crazy 88s, and it's all going down on Podbros, a podcasting network, and the Wicked Radio Network. In honor of those wacky Yakuza from Tarantino's Kill Bill, I bring you Category 1, a Tarantino test. If you haven't figured it out yet, all the questions are about Tarantino movies. Hope you know them. Here we go. Question 1. What Pulp Fiction character has a wallet that says bad motherfucker? Question 2. What kind of bear, and I put air quotes around bear because it's not really a bear, it's a person. What kind of bear was a member of the Inglourious Bastards? In other words, I'm looking for the nickname of the soldier nicknamed, well, I can't say it because that's the answer. So, what kind of bear was a member of the Inglourious Bastards? Question 3. What colors made up the 6 nicknames of the heist team in Reservoir Dogs? Question 4. The movie Grindhouse was a double feature with one film written by Robert Rodriguez and the other by Quentin Tarantino. Rodriguez wrote Planet Terror. What was Tarantino's film called? And finally, in Django Unchained, which actor played the role of Dr. King Schultz? And that's it for a Tarantino test, and it brings us to masks in movies. See, I knew we could fix that whole no masks thing. Here we go. 5 masks in this episode. Word, tell your mother. Alright, moving on. Question 1. In what teen slasher series does the killer wear a dark fencing mask? Question 2. In what 2013 movie do menacing revelers wear grinning, almost wooden masks? Question 3. Which Batman Begins character wears a mask made of burlap? Question 4. What barnyard animal mask makes several appearances in the various Saw films? And finally, which Watchmen character wore a mask of white fabric with a shifting black pattern on it? And that's it. Those are your 5 masks. And we go to our next category, which is Color Me Quizzical. All your answers will involve a color somewhere. Usually a phrase or a common saying, which I guess is a phrase, that includes a color in it. Alright? Here we go. Question 1. This saying means that something happens very rarely, but does happen. Question 2. A term that means an innocent fib. Question 3. What do you call a clue in a mystery story that is meant to mislead the reader? Question 4. This term originally meant a possession which its owner cannot get rid of and costs more to keep than it's worth. Nowadays, it's more commonly used for purposely junky but fun crappy Christmas gift exchanges. Question 5. This phrase means that even a negative situation has something positive that can be taken from it. And that does it for Color Me Quizzical, and takes us to our final category, which I'm dedicating to one of my students named Simon. He said he listened to the show and even tried some of the categories but didn't do too well. I asked him, well, what category would you want to hear? He said, I don't know, like classic rock. Done and done, Simon. So here's how this category works. Classic rock. I'm going to name 3 members from a classic rock band. Now, they may not have been members the entire time. They may have been the original members that got switched out. They may have been members that came in later. But 3 members of a classic rock band. You simply have to tell me the classic band. Here we go. Question 1. Syd Barrett, Nick Mason, Roger Waters. Question 2. Roger Daltrey, Pete Townsend, Keith Moon. Question 3. Angus Young, Malcolm Young, Colin Burgess. Question 4. Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, Frank Beard. And finally, question 5. John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant. Well, that's it. That's all, folks. Those are your 4 categories. Those were your 20 questions. So let's get to those answers after we hear a little shameless self-promotion. If you want to get a hold of me, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Hop on your computer or mobile device. 2. Go to Twitter. And 3. Send a message to @OBrundage, that's OH_Brundage, BRUNDAGE, or @TheRealADTS. One's my personal Twitter and one's the show's, but both get to me. Why would you want to contact me? You could tweet me your score so I could shout you out on the next episode. You could suggest a category you really want to hear. You could write your own category complete with the questions for me to use. Or you could leave me a comment that simply must be said. About the show would be nice, but not necessary. Now, you obviously stumbled on the show at least once, but did you know there's a lot of places on the internet to find another damn trivia show? There's iTunes, Stitcher, and TalkShoe.com. You can listen to ADTS weekly on Radio Fubar, but my personal favorite is to head over to Podbro or the Wicked Radio Network, both great sources for all your podcasting needs and wants. Well, that about does it for another round of shameless self-promotions. Now, on with the show. It is time for my favorite part of the show, because it is the answer part of the show, where we get to find out just how damn smart you really are. Our first category was a Tarantino test. Our first question was, what Pulp Fiction character had the wall that said, well, I'm not going to repeat that. Jules Winfield is your answer, but I'll accept just Jules, the character played by Samuel L. Jackson. But just Jules will be fine for your answer. What kind of a bear was a member of the Inglourious Bastards? The Bear Jew. That was the nickname of Staff Sergeant Donnie Donowitz, who bashed in people's heads with baseball bats. Well, not random people, Nazi people, so it's all good. The 6 colors that made up the nicknames for the characters in Reservoir Dogs were Mr. White, Mr. Orange, Mr. Pink, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, and Mr. Brown. I don't want to be Mr. Brown. That sounds too much like Mr. Can't say that either. I can't really repeat many Tarantino lines without swearing, and I've already done that once in the show, and I'm not doing it again. Sorry, where was I? Right, question 4. Which of the Grindhouse films was written by Tarantino? Death Proof is your answer there. And finally, in Django Unchained, which actor played the role of Dr. King Schultz? Christoph Waltz is your answer there. We now go to masks in movies. What teen slasher series had fencing mask as the killer's mask? Urban Legend. It was The Purge for question 2. The menacing, grinning, almost wooden masks. The Purge. It was Scarecrow or Dr. Jonathan Crane, I'll accept either answer, for the Batman character with the burlap mask. The barnyard animal mask in the Saw movies was Pig. And finally, it's Rorschach, who has essentially the Rorschach test on his face. Our next category was Color Me Quizzical, and your answers were Once in a blue moon, that's the phrase that means something that happens rarely. A white lie is an innocent fib. A red herring is a clue meant to mislead. White elephant is the answer to number 4. And finally, the phrase that means even a negative situation has something positive you can take from it is every cloud has a silver lining. And finally, we get to classic rock. Syd Barrett, Nick Mason, and Roger Waters are all members of Pink Floyd, or were, at least at some point, members of Pink Floyd. Roger Daltrey, Pete Townsend, and Keith Moon, The Who. Angus Young, Malcolm Young, and Colin Burgess, AC/DC. Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, Frank Beard, ZZ Top, or ZZ Top as we say here in Canada. Oddly enough, Frank Beard, only one without a beard. And finally, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant were Led Zeppelin. So, that's it. That's all, folks. Those are your answers to the questions that were on episode 88. How'd you do? Tweet me your score. Let me know. Anyway, it's getting that time. Advice time. Time for me to see if I can make things a little easier for you as you travel through this week. If you're in a fight with someone roughly your size, it's a coin toss as to who's going to win. Get in a fight with 2 to, say, 10 guys, you're obviously going to get your ass kicked. But if movies like Kill Bill have taught me anything, if you stack the odds against you enough, like say 1 versus 88, well then suddenly you can't be touched. What does that mean for you? How can you use that in your daily life? Well, if you find yourself at odds with 2 or 3 guys, or girls for that matter, see if you can convince them to go fetch like 20 or 30 friends. If they're foolish enough to comply, it's clobbering time. If they don't, well, I hope you have a good dental plan, because you're going to get stomped and punched. It's going to get bloody and ugly, painful, and ow, the hurting and the yikes and the oh, and the hair pulling and the eye out. Well, that brings us to the end of another Stop damn the presses! We don't have presses.
Hello, ladies. This is Lamont of Stereotype Podcast. Question. Are you tired of those guys that only last 3 minutes, like Joey?
Guys, it's Joe here. Have you already tugged it 4 times today, like James? And you know the next one's gonna hurt? Well, we've got time, and we've got news for you.
Why don't you tune into Stereotype Podcast and hang with us dicks? We can go an hour with no problem. It won't keep you from touching yourself, but it'll hurt less.
Find us on iTunes and Stitcher.